So in this video, I'm just running through my experimentation or my physical resource that I've created for my topic, which is substructures. So this is just the PowerPoint I've created. So just going through the different teaching strategies and resources I've used throughout the class, learning intentions, the design museum, things like that. I've discussed this in the actual Google site itself, so I'm just going to go through the experimentation kind of phase or element of my project and how I conducted that, and the model or physical resource that I've created. So I conducted this mock experiment with my current Leaving Cert class. So I'm subbing at the minute for Leaving Certs, and I conducted this experimentation with them and documented it with their permission. So I'm just going to run through kind of how I would do this in class and how I go through it and stuff like that. I'm just going to run through it briefly. So essentially the model that I would create is two concrete formers, two miniature scaled down concrete formers, one that is reinforced, one that's standard. And I get the students to create the formers in class to kind of run through as well the process behind creating formers and how they're used in foundations itself, and kind of use that to explain kind of the broader kind of context of foundations. And then we could kind of narrow that down more specifically into the concrete versus reinforced concrete kind of side of things here. So as you can see here, I have the students just kind of creating the former boxes here. And so two formers are created with each pair of students. So one student will be creating a former with no reinforcement in it. So you can see here I used copper pipe here just as a kind of an example of a reinforced steel bar. And as you can see, one student has no reinforcement in his former and one student does, just to act as a control for the experiment phase. So there they are, they've made their formers, so now they're just putting in the kind of the copper bar to act as the reinforcement agent. So there we have, in class I would fill up then the formers, go around to each student and fill up the formers with cement or concrete, and then they would tighten up the boxes and close them. When we were doing this in class for real, I would do it in a controlled environment obviously, and so that the desks wouldn't get destroyed with concrete, and we could use some sort of like cling film or something to prevent the concrete from leaking out of boxes. This is just kind of a mock experiment that I conducted with the class to kind of give a brief overview on how I would actually implement it into a class. So then the students here are just kind of closing up the boxes, tightening them up after we fill them up. And then once they have dried, so the first section of my class would revolve around the design museum and the Google site, or the virtual Google tour, and then creating the former boxes. And my two classes would be split into two individual classes. So the second class then would be separate to the first class, because this would allow time for the concrete to set in the formers, so that when the students come back for their second class in the week, they can then conduct the experimentation on the concrete formers. Because if they'd done it in a double class, they'd have to wait for the concrete to set. So then this is just the student taking out the screws of the former and removing the concrete block then. So as we here, we've removed the concrete blocks, and you can see here one of them is reinforced and this one doesn't have any reinforcement bars in it. So we can see here, look, the little reinforcement bars there. So then this is the students conducting the experiments. So we can do some tests like tensile strength tests, we can do some durability tests. You can see they're going to hit here with the hammer, see how durable it is or resistant, and if the concrete reinforcement prevents it from crumbling or breaking off. We can also put the pieces, the concrete pieces into the vise and conduct compression tests as well. So we can conduct kind of multiple tests with the students just to see, kind of give them a visible and physical representation of how concrete reinforcement works, and give them a more tangible kind of physical resource in front of them for them to see and present and show information based on their learning. And they can say, well, I've conducted my experiment here. One of the models, or one of the concrete formers, is after breaking under the stress or the tension, and then the other one is much more resilient or resistant, the one that is reinforced, obviously. And this is a way of students presenting that information through active engagement and active experimentation. So after they've conducted the test, then we can have a class discussion, and we can get them to present their findings and see if we have met the success criteria for the learning intentions we've set out at the start of the class. So that's just kind of a run through of the physical model and the experimentation resource I've made for my topic. Thanks very much.